Hello everybody! Today I'm going to do an unhaul. I've never actually done one of these before. I've thought about it occasionally. I've gotten rid of over 100 books so far, just in the past 10 months or so. And I've never thought about filming an unhaul because I get rid of them in dribs and drabs, one or two or three here and there. But as you may kind of be able to see behind me, I just got done with a big reorganization of my bookshelves, and I added and discarded a lot of stuff in my library thing catalog, and I have a large stack of stuff that I am letting go of finally. So I thought I would quickly show them to you and let you know why I'm getting rid of them. I've already kind of gone through all the stages of getting rid of the books that I never want to read and I didn't like, so I'm not going to keep it anymore. I'm now down to books primarily that fail the will I ever reread it test, or the if I want to reread it, can I get it from the library test. So some of these I really enjoyed, and who knows, maybe I'll revisit in the future. There's just no real compelling reason to keep them around taking up bookshelf space that new books could be filling. So let's just get into it. The first three you'll probably remember from my recent Try a Chapter Tag video, Camera Obscura by Lavi Tidar and Grim Space by Anna Aguirre. I talked about why I wasn't interested in these in that video, so I won't repeat myself here. And then I also decided to get rid of Sarah Canary by Karen Joy Fowler. I tried really hard. I read like 30% of this book and it wasn't working for me. I wanted to like it so much, it just would not click. I just failed to be interested in most of what was going on, so saying goodbye to this one as well. Some ones that may be a little bit surprising, because I've talked about them recently. I'm getting rid of the first three books in the Night Runner series by Lynn Flelling. This is Luck in the Shadows, Stalking Darkness, and Traitor's Moon. I bought these cheap used copies like 4 years ago when I wanted to read them, but my libraries didn't have them. However, things have changed. I've read them. I liked them. I don't think I'll really reread them, and I can get the rest of the series from the library on overdrive, so yeah. And then I'm getting rid of Pushing Ice by Alistair Reynolds. I know I just read this, I gave it 5 stars, I really loved it, but this is a really beat up mass market copy. I specifically have been buying used mass markets like this for cheap to read and then get rid of, because I know I will either not want to read it again or I will want to replace it with a better copy, and that is the case with this one. If I desire to have it again in my collection, I'll buy a much nicer edition of it. Two books that I read during Booktubeathon, I think. Iraq Plus 100. This is an anthology of Iraqi speculative fiction. It's edited by Hassan Blassim. I really liked the idea of this anthology, of this project. I really like the idea of reading more Iraqi or Middle Eastern spec fic and stuff, but I was pretty disappointed in most of the stories here. Just individually, the stories were poorly written or not to my particular tastes at all, so I was disappointed in this. I'm not gonna keep it, I'm not gonna reread it. But I will be looking out for other things like it. And then Pat Schmotz's Lizard Radio. This one I did like. It was a very interesting take on YA dystopia that focused much more on gender and the experience of the non-binary protagonist. And I liked it. I don't have a real reason to keep it though. It's a Tiptree Award winner, and I'm glad that I read it because I read it because it was a winner of that award. But this is one that I actually feel like I need to put it back out in the world so that somebody else who probably really needs it will have it, you know? And then some older things I've had around. The Silmarillion by Tolkien. I have read it. This is a copy, I think my parents gave this to me when I was very, very young. I read it like maybe 5 years ago now, it's been a while, and it was okay. I wish I'd read it when I was in my big Tolkien phase back when I was in my early teens, but that didn't happen. So I don't think I'll ever revisit it unless I suddenly go on another Tolkien tear, but if I want to reread it, my parents probably have a copy because my mother has a very nice Tolkien collection. The Book of the City of Ladies by Christine de Pizan. I think this was written in the 1400s. It was a very interesting book. It was pretty much like a feminist text at the time. It's a lot of advice to young ladies using examples from history and religion and stuff like that. And I thought it was a great read. But once again, I'm probably never going to reread it. I would like to get the second book though. I think it's called The Treasure of the City of Ladies, maybe? I don't think it's supposed to be as good, but you know. This is also a really great translation. It's translated by Rosalind Brown Grant, and apparently the original French is extremely convoluted, and the way it's translated into English, it's very, very readable. Ex Libris. This is an anthology of stories about libraries and librarians, edited by Paula Garan. I liked it. There's a really great range and variety of stories in this. They're very different from each other. But the ones that I liked the most, like In the House of the Seven Librarians by Ellen Klages, I actually already own in other anthologies or magazine issues, so I have them. I don't need to keep this particular book. Kind of an odd one, Mal Aqua, 4 Days of Rain in the City of Naples Waiting for the Occurrence of an Extraordinary Event by Nicola Pugliese. This is another translated book. The title or the subtitle tells you exactly what it's about. It was a very strange, interesting read, but not necessarily my kind of fiction. It was more like suspenseful literary fiction, which turned into a cult classic at one point, I guess, so I'm glad I read it, but somebody else can have it now. Sinners by Pat Cadigan. This is like a cyberpunk novel. I think it's the first thing I ever read by Cadigan. And I thought it was okay. Probably never gonna reread it. I will probably replace this copy with an SF Masterworks edition because I'm kind of collect those, as you can see the yellow spines over there. This is actually a pretty cool edition though. I really like the cover art and like just the colors on this particular edition. And Wicked Gentleman by Jen Hale. I think this was a recommendation from like Victoria and Chris way back in my early days on BookTube when I was first making friends. And I really enjoyed this. This was a lot of fun. It's basically LGBTQ fantasy. Like a half demon man falls in love with the human man or whatever, and I remember enjoying the way their relationship was written, but it was kind of a fluff read, and I haven't picked it up again since I read it the first time. A book that I haven't read, The Three Musketeers by Alexandre Dumas. I've tried to read this book twice. I originally was listening to it on audiobook, but it turned out it was either an abridged edition or the wrong translation, and I wanted this one, which is why I ended up switching to the print version and buying the edition that I knew was the right translation. This is translated by Richard Pevere. It's the Penguin Classics Deluxe Edition. However, I failed to read it the second time as well. I just wasn't interested in the story. It didn't pull me in. I really love the Count of Monte Cristo, but for whatever reason the Three Musketeers isn't quite working for me. I may try it again in the future someday, but I will do what I should have done in the first place, which is request it from the library, from interlibrary loan, instead of buying a copy. Alice's Adventures in Wonderland and Through the Looking Glass by Lewis Carroll. This is one of my old books from childhood. I think I had to read these for school, like in elementary school or something. I've occasionally thought about rereading it. I actually have reread Alice in Wonderland on my own a couple of times, I think, because I like it. I just don't like this copy of it. I keep looking at it thinking, why do I still have that? I don't have it anymore. It's going bye-bye. Foundling by D.M. Cornish. This is a really beat up, nasty copy. You may remember I actually hauled this a couple of years ago. I bought it used and they sent me one that was in much, much worse condition than it was described, and I was not happy. This is the first in a trilogy, and I really liked them, and they're heavily illustrated by the author with maps and stuff like that. It's really cool. So I'm getting rid of this copy because I hate it, and I will start over and like find better editions. The last of the really great Wang Doodles by Julie Andrews Edwards. Yes, it is that Julie Andrews. You can see her on the back. I've owned this book and Mandy by her. I don't remember what this one is about. I remember loving Mandy, so I kept the copy of that, but not this one. It's a children's book and it's adventures, and there's this thing called the Wang Doodle, and it's the last of its kind, and I liked it at the time, but that was like 20 years ago. Lightless by C.A. Higgins. This is another first book in a series, the Lightless trilogy, and it was all right. It was perfectly average science fiction. I'm not gonna keep a copy. Once again, like, I bought this because like I couldn't get it from the library, and then I got access to another library system that has all of them. So I'm gonna get rid of this, and if I want to finish the last 2 books, which I'm kind of iffy on, I'll get them from the library. And now I have to take a break because I have to take my cookies out of the oven. That sounded like a euphemism, but it's the actual truth. I need to take the cookies out of the oven. All right, I'm back. The cookies are out of the oven. They didn't burn. We're good. 84 Charing Cross Road by Helen Hanff. I rescued this book when my parents were doing a large purge of their collection. I was like, why are you getting rid of that? We talk about it all the time, or rather we talk about the movie version all the time. Very nice, very tasty. I really liked this when I read it. I also like the movie version, but I never reread it. I thought I would reread it after I got the copy of it, and I haven't, so I hope you can't hear the lawnmower. My neighbors are mowing their lawn. Now we are down to the last 2 stacks of books, and these are all series or parts of series. So first up are the 7 books in the Keys to the Kingdom series by Garth Nix. These are Mr. Monday, Grim Tuesday, Drowned Wednesday, Sir Thursday, Lady Friday, Superior Saturday, and Lord Sunday. I've always really liked the titles of these books. Yeah, the premise of this series is a lot of fun. I think these are all YA fantasy. Maybe they start out kind of middle grade, but I think of them more as YA. I'm gonna put them down because they're very heavy. So when I read the first couple of these books, I really liked them. I thought the premise was cool. I was really into them. And then after I read the first 5, I think I took a break. I was in university, and then I came back and I finished the last 2 books as an adult, and they were not good. They were very rushed, and there was probably the worst editing error I've ever come across in a book was in one of them. I'm very conflicted about this series. I've thought about getting rid of the books multiple times, but I've always waffled between, but I liked the first couple so much, I like Garth Nix so much, but the last couple were kind of trash, and But I was really thinking about it, and I thought, as much as I loved Garth Nix when I was younger, he's one of my favorite authors when I was a teenager, the only books by him that I'm still really interested in are his Old Kingdom books, like the Abhorsen trilogy. So I am going to reread those. I have reread Sabriel relatively recently, so I'm going to keep the Old Kingdom books and just get rid of the other stuff because I don't need them anymore. Then I'm getting rid of The Golem's Eye and Ptolemy's Gate by Jonathan Stroud. These are books 2 and 3 in the Bartimaeus trilogy. I loved these. They're so funny. I read the trilogy and then I read the 4th book, which is like a standalone prequel, I think, and they're hilarious. I thought they were really, really good. And that's why I've kept hold of these for so many years. I think I actually like pre-ordered these books on Amazon when they were coming out when I was very young, and that was harder for me to do because I enjoyed them that much. And maybe I will reread them because I just remember them being fun and actually laugh out loud funny. These are the books with like the 1st and 2nd and 3rd and 4th thoughts in the footnotes or something like that. Am I mixing that up with Terry Pratchett? Let me know. I know some people who have read these relatively recently and also really liked them. So if I want to revisit them, the library has them, and I might try them out on audiobook as well because I've heard the audio versions are really good. And last, I'm getting rid, finally, of my remaining Sookie Stackhouse books. These are the first 6. Dead Until Dark, Living Dead in Dallas, Club Dead, Dead to the World, Dead as a Doornail, and Definitely Dead. I was once a huge Charlaine Harris fan. I've read like 40 of her books. She's one of my most read authors ever. And I discovered her through the Sookie Stackhouse books. The first couple of them were out. I was probably around 15 because I discovered them when I was volunteering in the library. I was checking in books, and I would occasionally read bits of the books that I was checking in, and that's how I found these. And then I went off and I read every single book by Harris, and I loved them. Unfortunately, I don't like her books as much anymore. Her earlier books, yes, and I have reread the first 5 or 6 of the Sookie Stackhouse novels a couple of times. I really enjoyed them, but I hated the way the series ended. I didn't even read the very last book because like books 6 and 7 or 7 and 8 were awful. And then her other books she's come out with recently have also not been that great in my opinion. But I had been keeping hold of these for nostalgia reasons, but they failed the test of if I want to reread them, can I get them from the library? The answer being yes, of course, and I could even buy new copies for incredibly cheap if I wanted to, so I don't need to keep them anymore. I'm finally letting go of the last of the Charlene Harris. So that was the very quick look at all the books I'm getting rid of. These are actually leaving the house today. Once my cookies are put away, I will be getting in the car and taking these and some other things to the library to donate and just getting them out of the house. And I feel a lot better about getting rid of books now. I've been practicing it. I've gotten better at it. And I've noticed that according to my spreadsheet, I have now let go of 128 books since January 1st, 2018. And I have not regretted getting rid of any of them. Any of them. Even the ones that have been hard for me to let go of for nostalgia reasons or whatever, I've not regretted getting rid of them. I've not even thought about them since I got rid of them. So that's a nice feeling. Anyway, I hope this was interesting for you guys. I don't know if I will really do lots of Unhaul stuff, but I just had such a nice, bunch of stacks of books hanging around. I thought I should film something. So, hope you enjoyed. I'll be back again soon in one form or another. And until then, bye.